Good evening, everyone. Or good evening. I have the privilege, we'll call it a privilege, of kicking us off in our sermon series for tonight. So we're going to be taking an in-depth look at the book of James. And I know the name of our sermon series was A Faith That Walks. So I would consider James probably one of the more practical books of the New Testament. I think they're all practical, but James is just known for being very forthright. And some would say kind of intense maybe in the way that he writes. And he calls his readers to just a deeper level of faith and what that looks like. He has an emphasis on action. Faith that is consistent, faith that lives out truth, faith that believes it and proves that they believe it. So in essence, a faith that walks. So I'm going to kick us off with the first 8 verses, and we'll kind of dialogue through what that looks like, and about what developing a mature faith is, and the process of that. So I'll read, if you guys want to read with me, James 1 through 8. It says, James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes scattered among the nations. Greetings. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Such a person is double-minded and unstable in all they do. Let's pray. God, I just want to thank you so much for today. I want to thank you for this class and all that we've learned throughout this process. And I just ask that you would bless this time that we have to share your word with one another. I pray that we would be open and willing to receive the word that you have for us from each and every one of us, God. And we would be willing and open to receive, open our ears and our hearts to your voice. We love you so much. Amen. Okay, so before we kind of get into a little story, 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to lead a mission trip to India, and it was through Southeastern. I felt the Lord kind of burdening my heart to go on a trip over the summer. And while this was very much an amazing opportunity, it's one of my favorite things that Southeastern offers, I wasn't really kind of excited about it. In the sense that I knew I was going to have a busy year. I was like student leadership. I was committed to directing a show that year. I was going to start my honors thesis. And I wrestled with the Lord. I was like, really? Is that really wise? I don't think it's wise time management. I'm not really that interested. I don't think that that's kind of, the best option for me. After praying, I felt like the Lord was like, let me stretch you. Like, okay, fine, good, whatever, we'll do that. So through some kind of crazy circumstances, I connected with some missionaries in India. Before I knew it, I was going on a mission trip to northern villages, and we were going to be hiking, and I don't hike, so that was just the first problem. And throughout the process, basically, I ended up facing difficulty after difficulty after difficulty in leading a mission trip. I'd never led a mission trip before. I'd never been to India before. And I started with a team of 15, and I ended with a team of 4, 2 of which girls didn't even go to Southeastern. And the 2 weeks before, my assistant team leader, I went through 3 assistant team leaders, and the girl who finally stuck it through, her visa didn't go through, so she couldn't go on the trip. So it was me, 2 other girls that I'd only met in person once, all of us 3 women, flying to a place that none of us had ever been to before to do a thing that none of us knew how to do, which was hike. Wow. And I just remember throughout that entire semester, meanwhile, I'm still in student leadership, I'm still directing a show, I'm still writing thesis, I'm still a student, working a job, and I just remember being so mad at God. Just frustrated because I was like, I knew that you had called me to this, but you made this process so difficult. And I had such a bad attitude about it. And I was frustrated. And I remember I was frustrated up until the point, my mom took me to the bus that was taking me to the airport. She was like, are you sure you want to go? She was nervous. And I got on the plane with the girls, and I just said, okay, God, we made it. I'm going to India at this point, so I better be good. And I'm so glad, right? it was that trip that I met the Lord, and he really revealed to me just how specific his purposes are. One of the girls got called to be a missionary in India, and just there were very specific things that had our team been larger we wouldn't have been able to do. And I remember having a moment in the mountains on the top with the Lord, like, I planned this, like, this was very specific and purposed trip, like, you got here and you made it. And I wouldn't trade it for the world, but I know that the one thing that made that process so difficult was my attitude, right? And had I maybe perhaps not doubted God and questioned God throughout the entire time, it would have been a little bit easier. So I share that story with you because I really think it relates to what we are talking about in James, which is this idea of maturity in our faith. And we'll go through it verse by verse, just to paint the background. So the first verse is an introduction of the author and the audience. He says, James, servant of God, of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes scattered among the nations, greetings. So we see James is the author, and many believe that this is the brother of Jesus, not to be confused with James, one of the 12 disciples. He was also the leader of the Jerusalem church. Something that I thought was interesting was he doesn't necessarily put in his relationship to Jesus in the introduction, and I think it kind of speaks to the authority that he has. It's not one that is biological, really, but spiritual. So he knows Jesus as his master, and he serves God. Secondly, the audience, Jewish Christians scattered outside of Palestine. So at that time, many of the Jewish Christians were being persecuted because of their faith. So they lost land, and they were facing many trials. They were financially exploited, things like that. So that's kind of the audience we're talking to, which takes us to the next verse, which is, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Now we know that the readers at this time are facing trials, which I had mentioned, and I just think it's interesting because he says, consider it joy. Now, I don't know how many of you would say that's your natural reaction. We all know that that was not my natural reaction in my testing. It's something a little bit more along the lines of frustration and stress. But here we see that he doesn't just, the joy is not aimless, right? He says, because you know the testing of your faith produces perseverance. So what you value will determine your ability to rejoice in your circumstances, yeah? So if you value this development of perseverance in your life, you can have joy in whatever you face.
That's good.
And I kind of was wondering, I looked up dictionary.com, and what is perseverance? It says steadfastness in doing something despite difficulty or delay in achieving success. So we see that it's more of a process. Perseverance is kind of a quality, something that's being built up, but it's not the end goal, right? Because it's a delay in achieving success. So there's something that is coming out of your perseverance, you're persevering for. And we see that in the next verse, which says, verse 4, let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Perseverance develops maturity. But the only way to develop this maturity is to let perseverance do its work. In the Greek, the idea of perseverance is to remain under is the picture. It's the idea of carrying a heavy load. So in that, it's not looking for relief, immediate relief. It's bearing a burden. And studying, I learned the Messianic Jewish community at the time, kind of, as you read through James, you see he suggests that they were tempted to use violence in order to bring about the will of God in their own way for themselves in regards to their circumstances. So that's kind of the opposite of letting perseverance do its work, right? That's like looking for their own solution to something. But perhaps the will of God isn't necessarily economic success. It's not popularity. It's not acceptance in a thing, but it is this idea of maturing faith. So my question is, then are trials worth it? Are enduring trials worth it if you know that at the end of the day, the goal is that you're being made into the likeness of Christ? If you're being made whole. Because the work of God, I want to make this clear, is it's always a deeper thing. right? He doesn't just want to meet our physical or practical needs, he wants to meet our spiritual ones. So if you're being tested and you're enduring a trial and you're kind of running out of joy, maybe you're tired, whatever it is, I really believe, God does things in a deeper way. And he wants to birth maturity out of us. He wants to birth wholeness out of us. He wants to do healing in us that we sometimes don't want to allow to happen because the process is a little long and it feels a little heavy and it's a little tiring. But if you choose to allow your joy to be rooted in the idea that the value, that maturity of Christ is something that you want, then that kind of will sustain you through this heaviness of this burden, right? Hebrews 12:2 says, "For the joy set before him, Christ endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of God." He knew the value of the work of the cross. So though it was painful, brought about his death, he knew it meant salvation for you and for me, and he knew also that it meant reconciliation for him with the Father. And so just be encouraged today. That's a picture of wholeness and completeness in itself. If you're being tested, you're in great company because Jesus was, and he endured for the joy set before him. He had joy in the thing that he knew that would come out of it. So I think back in India, and I said, maybe my attitude would have been a little bit different had I known that, had I really believed that God would birth something new in me. And I can say I definitely have a larger capacity now. I've been stretched since that time. Another thing is the beautiful thing about the process of walking into maturity is that God does not expect us to do it alone. So verse 5, it says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you." In Jewish tradition, it was understood that wisdom was necessary to endure. So I love the word here. It says, if any of you lacks wisdom. So there's you recognize that there's a need, that you need something, and your immediate response should be to ask God. So I think for anybody on the journey to maturity and completion, we should recognize that we can't do that on our own. We need God for that. We need help. And I think James so kindly reminds his readers that God gives generously to all without finding fault. And I looked up the word generously in the Greek for its haplos, and it means simply or with intention or integrity. So basically, when we ask, God responds to us with a single-minded intention of answering that request. He doesn't play games. You don't have to ask God and wonder if he heard you. He has the intention of answering you and giving you what you asked for. But James obviously makes it very clear that we as believers have a personal responsibility, which is to believe this truth about the character of God, that he wants to give and wants to help us. So in the next verses, he says, "But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Such a person is double-minded and unstable in all they do." Now, I grew up about 15 minutes from the beach, so if there's anything I've learned in my life is that waves are pretty much the most inconsistent thing. You can be in the water and you can just be kind of bobbing along, and then you get tossed over by a wave, and then the next one looks big, but it's not really that intense. They're inconsistent. Waves, there's two types of waves. There's tidal waves, which are with the tides of the pole of the moon and the sun, and then there's wind-blown waves. So it's the friction that happens between the water and the wind, right? And that is kind of how James is describing a person who doubts and doesn't believe, who asks and then doubts. He says they are being blown around by their circumstances. They're not staying rooted in the truth of what they believe about God. So a person who doubts is someone who's allowing their circumstances to determine their attitude toward the character of God, rather than being governed by the truth of the character of God. So why ask to begin with? If you say that you believe the truth of God, why ask? If you don't really believe the truth of God is, why ask, right? James actually says this man can expect the opposite of what he prayed for. And the word double-minded in Greek means double-souled, which I thought was interesting since God commands us to love him with our whole mind, soul, strength, right? Heart, soul, strength. Jeremiah 29:13 says, seek me, find me when you seek me with your whole heart. So not being double-souled, double-hearted, but as God gives with single integrity to believe with that as well. So the one who doubts is basically self-defeating. So my question to you then is, what are you going through right now that has you doubting the character of God? And how did those line up with Scripture? A mature believer remains consistent in their attitude toward God, and trials provide us the opportunity to see the faithfulness of God. And if we're really to call ourselves ministry students, current or future pastors, whatever it is, I would say we don't really have time to waste doubting the character of God in our ministry. And I really believe that God is calling us to maturity of faith, because we will have a lot of people that we come in contact with who will be doubting, and we don't have time to do that. If we're too focused on ourselves and our circumstances, we will forever be kind of looking for the wisdom of the world, for success in other people's eyes, and we will not grow. So let's embrace trials. Let's embrace what God is trying to do in us so that we may be mature and partner with him and his kingdom and his work and what he wants to do in us and through us. So thank you.